Izzy?
Hey, Turnham, how are you?
I'm okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Monday after Christmas. I both kind of love and dread this week. I like the calmness of this week, and I am always a little bit sad to let go of the year, even a year as in some ways kind of miserable and abysmal as 2020 has been. I don't know. I accuse you of being sentimental about weird things, but I'm kind of sentimental about years, which is sort of funny. Look at this piece of hair shooting out of my forehead. That's too bad. So this morning, excuse me, I went back to look at the 5 weeks of Moderation Monday that we did so that we could go back and kind of recap. We're going to recap this week, and we're also going to look ahead, since that's the purpose kind of this last week of the year. And I actually thought we talked about some really interesting stuff on these Mondays. So the first one, I pointed out to you how Dr. Mary never finishes all his coffee. And I feel that you've gotten better about that, Dr. Mary. Do you think you have, since I pointed it out to the world at large?
I didn't really have much choice, actually.
You know what? Sometimes shame is a good motivator.
So yes, I have got better.
Has gotten better. The second point was this idea of working from home provides you great freedom, but also means that you're working all the time. So how do you moderate working from your home office? The third one is the idea of presents are not going to make up for people or experiences or tradition. So don't be silly and purchase all kinds of presents and put yourself in a financial situation that is not good, and provide stuff to people who don't want stuff. You know, we talked about the fact that people have been cleaning out closets and cabinets and rooms through all of this. What nobody then needs is more stuff. So we talked about that. Then we talked about moderating having the news on all the time and how angry that makes people. And then we talked about alcohol consumption, just straight up moderate it. And I think what we want to talk about today is this idea of what if you screwed up on some of those? What if you intended to be more present and instead you worked a whole lot more, or you intended to turn the news off and instead it was on even more, whatever it is. The point today in this last week of 2020 is to moderate how hard you are on yourself. Because all you can do now at this point is look back and say, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that, or I wish I had been more mindful, or however you want to think of it. But spending this last week now beating yourself up for the places where you dropped the ball isn't going to make it better, and it's going to make you feel worse. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Dr. Mary?
Yeah, you can be, some people can be too harsh on themselves if they're trying to do something and it doesn't work right away. Nothing really works first time anyway.
Change is hard.
Yeah, so, you know, just take a breath and keep on going would be my best advice.
Well, and I think it's about stopping, reflecting on why you did what you did. Not what you did, but why. The why is always actually the root cause of what you do or don't do. So why did I have the news on all Christmas Eve and Christmas Day? Well, maybe you were really feeling bad about not having family around you. Or maybe you are really anxious about the economic crisis situation in your own home or your community or the country or the world. Maybe you have some examined concerns. And if that's true, then having the news on means you don't have to examine them. You get to just listen to this wah, 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 wah in the background and continue to not explore what's really going on.
Now, of course, you might have been in dire need of as part of the stimulus package and was glued to the news to see if that was actually going to happen or not. I mean, that's understandable.
Absolutely. But I'll also just say this. Watching and listening to the news did not get that man to sign that bill any faster or slower than he finally did. So don't be filled with loathing that you were going to turn the news off and didn't, or that you were going to drink less and didn't, or that you were not going to over purchase presents and didn't. Spend some time this week really thinking through, well, why did I do that? Self-reflection is hard and important. If you can't get to that root, then it's going to be really hard for you to actually make any real systemic change.
And it's also only the third day of Christmas. There are 12 of them, so you can still reach your goal.
Absolutely. So that's that piece of it. But we have two other things we want to do. Every day this week, we're going to talk through this little game that I ordered last year called Vertellus. And it's Dutch. I can't remember where it's from. One of the Netherlandy kinds of countries.
It's in part of the European Union that's still intact.
It's not England, yes.
Let's call it what it is.
But it's these series of questions, and you can play it with 2 to 6 people, I think. And it's all about developing deeper conversation as opposed to surface. We're really all very good at surface questions. How are you? Great, good, nice to see you. You too, have it. Merry Christmas, blah, blah, blah. But we don't often get into deep conversation. So every day this week, we're going to ask one of these questions and give you the opportunity to reflect on it for yourself.
Good job.
Thank you. So the past year in retrospect, with the knowledge you have now, what would you have done differently? What would you say to that, Dr. Mary?
No, I don't know. I don't know what I've done differently this year. I don't think I did any monumentally. I don't think I made any. It's something I really wanted to change this year. I can't think of anything.
Question of the day, repeat. With the knowledge you have now, what would you have done differently in this past year? Boy, you know what? I'm feeling kind of stumped as well. I feel like we have been pretty intentional this year, in part because we've kind of had to be because of COVID, and in part because we've chosen to be. This is not a great thing, but I would not have taught. This semester that just finished that I taught, I would not have done that. That was a mistake.
That was a lot of work for you.
It was a lot of work. And I loved the people I brought in as guests and loved meeting them. And so I'm really, really happy for that. But I did not have the bandwidth to teach. So I wish that I would have said no to that. And I hope going forward that I remember it, because I am someone, and I know this is my actor self, I am someone who, if you feed me the right line out of the gate and you sort of ego massage me a bit, you can get me to say yes to a lot of things. The very last play that I did almost 10 years ago was for the same reason. And guess what? I learned my lesson from that, and I have not done theater since. And I think it's unlikely I will do theater ever again because of that. And I hope that it is unlikely that I will ever teach again because I should not have said yes to this semester, and I did. So I would do that differently. I would say no. But I did survive it, and I loved the people I met. And I had some great students. There's nothing actually negative about it. I just I didn't have the capacity to do it well.
No, you talked as much as you could about when we took Lily for walks. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a lot of stress for you, but you did enjoy doing it.
No, I did not
Well,
enjoy doing it.
You got through it.
I got through
and
it.
Saw positive things.
Yes, there were lots of positives to it, even though I didn't enjoy doing it. Absolutely. Do you have an answer?
I still can't think of a damn thing.
Okay, well, that's all right. I also think I would not have run home from England quite so quickly. If I had known that was our last trip of the year, I would not have felt so compelled to get back. But
I'd agree with you in that one, because we came back and then a week later everything got shut down, and I thought to myself, why did we come back?
yeah, except that it would not have been appropriate for us to have gotten stuck in England.
And of course Danica would have to look after our dog for
Yeah,
quite some
Danica
time.
from my office would have had Lil all this time, and that would not have been good either. So, I just, but in the big picture, that's not too bad. But I'm curious if you are thinking through the question for yourself. You don't need to share your answers with us unless you want to, but I think there is real value in this kind of deep reflection. The why of why you say yes to things or don't say yes to things, I think has real value. And then the last thing that we want to say today is to continue to be very, very careful, health-wise. Dr. Mary and I both tested positive for COVID over the weekend. Your symptoms were incredibly mild.
I was sick for a day.
And you were really just kind of under the weather.
Yeah, I wasn't desperately sick.
My symptoms have been bad. Not good at all. Now, not so bad that I need to go to the hospital. I don't have any respiratory, I don't have any real respiratory symptoms. But I mean, if you go back and look at last week's daily doses, you can tell the days where I got up to do daily dose and then went right back to bed. And I continue to not feel good. And the reason that we got tested is because I have lost my taste and smell capacity. I'm drinking crazy high-fat eggnog right now. Can't taste a thing about it. Put some spicy mustard on my tongue 2 days ago. Can't taste it. So continue to be careful, because we have been very careful.
Yeah, we were. We actually spent Dana spent a while trying to work out where we contracted this thing, and I said, what's the point? As soon as you leave your house, you run a risk of being exposed to this virus. So,
Yeah.
I think we're just grateful that we tested positive, but we're not nowhere near needing to be hospitalized.
No. So the point is just don't lose your vigilance now. I don't think we did lose our vigilance. We've not been anywhere unmasked. No. We did see my dad and stepmom the Saturday before Christmas, but they have no symptoms. We were outside the entire time. All of those kinds of things. We were as careful as we could be. And yet we still got it. So just be on the alert, because even though I didn't develop respiratory challenges and don't need to go to the doctor or the hospital, I can promise you I put in 4 really, really miserable days and I still don't feel good, and I'm a week into it. So just be careful. Be careful and stay home as much as you can, particularly now as people are coming back from having traveled. I think there's a real risk of things flaring up again. So stay home as much as you possibly can.
Also, again, take a breath. There is something to the fact that if you feel stressed, you're more likely to succumb to an illness, and that even includes symptoms from a virus. if you're stressed, your immune system goes bonkers. So you have to
Yeah.
take that into account.
I mean,
You still have to take a moment to just draw breath and relax. It's a scary time.
I assumed I was just sick because I often get sick at the end of marathons like my fall semester was, which is also why I need to not say yes to teaching again. I don't need to add that additional stress to my plate. And so I wasn't super concerned about being
No.
sick despite the fact that I felt bad. But when the loss of taste and smell was a pretty good indicator that we were probably dealing with something bigger. So, on that note, have a fabulous last week of 2020. Man, as ready as I know we all are to kick this year to the curb, it is a year that, God willing, will be unlike any other that we lived through. And we will look back on the lessons that we've learned from this year. I know we will. So take some time today to reflect on our question. With the knowledge you have now, thinking through this past year in retrospect, what would you have done differently? Keep washing your hands, keep wearing your masks, and probably most importantly, stay home as much as you possibly can, and stay away from other people. We don't know where we got it, but I don't want it to go to anyone else. So take care. Happy Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.